set the frequency off by accident. That happened last time too. Hare Krishna. So, better not to speak directly into the microphone like that. It's better it's like that, just for all you know, because I have trouble sometimes hearing people's classes when they're speaking to the microphone like that. So the microphone should be like that. Okay? Everybody got it? So, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Malaba Hillsborough Dahude Gopi Jana Malaba Hillsborough Dahude Yasodanandana Vrajajanarandahuna Yasodanandana Vrajajanarandana Yamuna Tira Manachari Yamuna Tira Manachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Gopi Jana Malaba Giri Baladade Gopi Jana Malaba Giri Baladade Yasodanandana Vrajajanarandana Yasodanandana Vrajajanarandana Jamuna Tera Banachari Yamuna Tera Panachati Jai Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvati Acharya Osutera Sitashi Shimad, His Divine Grace, Abhaya Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Paran Say Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopikapanath Sayam Mukunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavanam Ki Jai. Maturanam Ki Jai. Jagadada Swami Ki Jai. Yamunamai Ki Jai. Shrimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nivashesha Shinuvadi Paschatade Jitarani. So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 41st chapter, text 25. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Kaschid Viparyag Drita Vastra Bhushana Vismritya Chaikam Yugaleshu Atapara Akritaika Patra Shavanaika Nupura Nankritva Advitiyam Tu Aparas Cha Lochanam Kaschid Viparyagdrita Vastrabhushana Vismritya Chaikam Yugaleshvat Akwaraha Svatapara Kritaika Patra Shavanaika Nupara Nankritvatvitiyam Tvaparashchalochanam Kaschid Viparyagdrita Vastrabhushana Vismritya Chaikam Yugaleshvatapara Kritaika Patra Shavanaika Nupara Nankritvatvitiyam Svaparashchalochanam Kaschit Viparyagdrita Vastrabhushana Vismritya Chaikam Yugaleshvatapara Kritaika Patra Shavanaika Nupara Nankritvatvitiyam Svaparashchalochanam. Okay. Kaschit, some of them. Viparyak, backwards. Drita, putting on. Vastra, their clothes. Bhushanaha, and ornaments. Vismritya, forgetting. Cha, and. Ekam, one. Yugaleshu, of the pairs. Ata, and. Aparaha, others. Krita, placing. Eka, only one. Patra, earring. Shavana, on their ears. Eka, or one. Nupuraha, set of ankle bells. Na'angtva, not anointing. Dvitiham, the second. Two, but. Aparaha, other ladies. Cha, and. Lochanam, an eye. Translation, some of the ladies put their clothes and ornaments on backwards. Others forgot one of their earrings or ankle bells, and others applied makeup to one eye, but not to the other. So you can repeat. Some of the ladies put their clothes and ornaments on backwards. Others forgot one of their earrings or ankle bells, and others applied makeup to one eye but not the other. So, purport by the followers of His Divine Grace, I.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the ladies were very eager to see Krishna, and in their haste and excitement, they forgot themselves. So there's commentaries by the Acharyas. We'll read them very quickly. This verse and the next verse describe the eagerness of the women of Mathura. They put their clothing and ornaments on the reverse manner. They forgot to put on one of the pair of earrings and bangles and went to Krishna. Thus they appeared with only one earring and one anklet. Some women had cudgel, that's the black stuff. Sorry about that. That's what it is. On one eye only. And Jiva Goswami says, this verse is connected with the next verse. After hearing the commotion which arose from the citizens on seeing the two boys, they acted in this way. The singular akam is used to express a type. Some put their clothing on backwards. They took both parts of the clothing, but forgot to put one on and then went to see Krishna. Others decorated themselves with only one of a pair of ornaments. After starting to decorate their eyes with ointment, they left after decorating only one eye. The word cha indicates that other anomalies also occurred in their dressing. Another version has swalochanam. The word shva indicates that they were absorbed in decorating their eyes. And then you have Sanatan Goswami, who comments, this verse is connected with the next verse. After hearing the commotion which arose from the citizens on seeing the two boys, the women act in this way. Same thing. Singular akam is used to express a type. They put their clothing on backwards. They put parts of their clothing but forgot to put one on and then went to see Krishna. Then others decorated themselves with only one element. It's actually of a pair of elements, of ornaments. After starting to decorate their eyes with ointment, they left after decorating only one eye. The word cha indicates that other anomalies also occurred in their dressing. Another version has swalochanam. The word swa indicates they were absorbed in decorating their eyes. Actually the same commentary. Okay, so we'll go over the verse again. Kashit viparyag drita vastrabhushana vismritya chaikam yugaleshvapa yata paraha daika patra shabanaika nupara nankva dvitiyam swaparascha lochanam. So Om Gana Timranda Shah Gananjana Shilakaya Chakshur Unminitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, as was spoken about yesterday, this is like an Anubhava occurs, and I'm going to read the description from the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Anubhava occurs when feelings and emotions within oneself are exhibited. In this attitude of Anubhava, one dances, sometimes falls down, sometimes sings loudly, shows convulsions, yawns, and sometimes breathes very heavily. And here's the point. All without concern for circumstances. And we're going to talk about that in a second. And also was mentioned yesterday, this is Purva Rag, or preliminary attraction, which is part of the feelings of Vipralamba. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his son Modana Vasham, explains Vipralamba, at least as far as the gopis are concerned, in a very, very interesting way in relationship with the Shikshashtika verse. Of course, we have this one Shikshashtika verse which really directly is connected with Vipralamba. Yugayatam nimishena chakshusha pravashayatam shunyayatam jagat sarvam govinda vidahename. Oh Krishna, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment to be like a yuga cycle, not like 12 years or more, like a yuga cycle, which is a long time. But actually, 12 years or more is a long time for us too. So, Yugayatam nimishen chakshusha shunyayatam, and the whole world is jagat sarvam, the whole universe is void in separation from you, without you. So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says the word yugayitam is simple and direct. The phrase Govinda Virahena expresses deep feelings of separation. Self-realized Rasika devotees have divided Vipralamba, or the mood of separation, into Purva Rag, which is what we're hearing about today. Mana, because mana can mean like anger with Krishna, or you can be angry with the impediments that are separating us from Krishna, Pravasa, and so on. Yet the recondite import lodged deep within this shloka composed by Lord Chaitanya is that the devotee living in this world, here's an interesting thing. This is why I put this quote in, should need only relish the separation of Purva Rag. This is Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So he also says, and I'm going to explain that in a second, the scriptures also say that the mood of viraha, or separation, has 10 attendant conditions: pondering, sleeplessness, perturbation, emaciation, pallor, incoherent speech, being stricken madness, delusion, and death, which basically means unconsciousness, sometimes means death. And here's a translation, another translation from the Anjalila of this particular verse: Yugayatam nimishena chakshusha pravashayatam shunyayatam jagatsab opinavidahename. In my agitation, a day never ends, for every moment seems like a millennium. This is a beautiful translation from the Anjalila 20th chapter, texts 40 to 41. Pouring incessant tears, my eyes are like clouds in the rainy season. The three worlds have become void because of separation from Govinda. I feel as if I were burning alive in a slow fire. Wow. That's intense. That's Anjalila 20, chapter 20, text 40 to 41. And of course that deals with the Shikshashika. And here's a purport by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur I found quite interesting. O Govinda, the world is simply an immense void in your absence. My eyes are raining tears like monsoon-laden clouds. Each batting of an eyelid, it's an amazing translation he gives here, seems to last a millennium. This is an excellent example of Vipralamba. He says Vipralamba Ras here. The shloka tends to point out for the Jata Rati devotee, it is absolutely essential that he seek to experience Vipralamba Ras and not care for sambhoga or enjoyment. It's interesting. Spiritual separation causes ecstasy in material life. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Material life, viraha, or separation, causes only grief, whereas on the transcendental platform, or plane, it produces exultant ecstasy, even though it seems like acute anguish. Vipralambha nourishes sambhoga, or enjoyment. As a matter of fact, in prema vai chitra, or variegated of love, within the Vipralambha ras, there is sambhoga, but only externally. Vipralambha, the separation again, is marked by incessant and intense recollections of Krishna and his pastimes. In other words, even in the Purva rag, before one has actually met Krishna for the first time, which was mentioned yesterday, one has heard about Krishna. I was actually thinking about this in terms of the story of Nal and Damayanti too. That there was of course it's not exactly on the same level of Krishna and his devotees, but there was a swan who actually carried information between Nal and Damayanti. And anyway, Damayanti heard about Nal, and she could only think about Nal, and also Rukmini, same thing. So we understand Rukmini and Krishna, obviously. So hearing is very, very important. So Vipralambha is marked by incessant, intense recollections of Krishna and his pastimes. In fact, one never forgets Krishna. This is the super excellent stage of bhajan. And finally, Rupa Goswami talks about Vipralambha, the different stages. He talks, it's an interesting verse. Uvirag tatamana pravasa vaichitra vaichitya gyana Vipralambha charito prakara sangame purvarati labe purvaraga yati darshane shavane janmatar. There are 4 types of Vipralambha, namely, what you mentioned before, Purvarag, affection prior to meeting. 2, here he describes mana as pouting. Pravasa, distant sojourn. That means separation by distance. Prema vaichitya, feeling separation even in the presence of the beloved. What's an example of that? Can anyone think of the pastime when Madhu Mangal said what? Does anyone? Not Mother Urmila, not Mother Urmila, anyone else here? What did Madhu Mangal say? He said Madhu was gone. Yeah, the bumblebee. Actually, in Hindi, it's called Madhu Maki. Madhu Maki in Hindi, not in Sanskrit. What? Manasarovara? Oh, Prema Sarovara. I don't remember the name. So anyway, so Radharani heard that Krishna was gone, and he was right there in front of him. He was right there in front of her. Yeah, she's missing him. And also there's the whole idea that Krishna left before, and he may leave again. Maybe they can be more attentive. Oh, they did. They closed it. Purvarag is the infatuated. So here, Rupa Goswami described Purvarag as the infatuated condition that arises before the actual meeting as a result of either seeing or hearing about the beloved. So, so Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that we should be trying to experience Purvarag, which is really interesting, which requires hearing about Krishna. And when we hear about Krishna enough times, then we become, like we described before, utsahan, just like we find in the Upadeshamrita, one one of the qualities that lead us to advance in devotional service is utsahan. Utsahan nisthyadarya tat karma pavartana. Sangus changus sato vrite sadvir bhakti prasidyati. Utsahan means enthusiasm, and in order to have that sort of enthusiasm for Krishna, one has to have a desire to attain Krishna, and sometimes that desire, intense desire, is also called lolyam. Lolyam means like intense greed. Of course, in this material world, we have lolyam, or intense greed, for what? For sense gratification or liberation or something self-centered. And therefore, Rupa Goswami also says in the Upadeshamrita that Achahara prayasa cha pajalpaniyamagraha janasangas cha lolyam cha, that things that impede our progress in devotional service are things like overeating, collecting too much, like mentioned yesterday, doing devotional service ritualistically, niyam agraha, or not following the rules and regulations, or having bad jana sangas, taking bad association, but especially lolyam, hankering after something in this material world. So, Rupa Goswami, talking about the price of pure devotional service, gives this amazing quote. This is actually also mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Actually, really beautiful quote from Rupa Goswami. Krishna bhakti rasa bhavita mati kriyatam yadi kuta pi labhyate tatra lolyam api mulyam ekalam janma koti sukritayar nalabhyate, which translates basically as pure devotional service and Krishna consciousness cannot be had even by pious activity in hundreds and thousands of lives. It can be attained only by paying one price. That is intense greed to obtain it. If it is available somewhere, one must purchase it without delay. So that, this is the mood of the ladies who are going to see Krishna. Intense lolyam, intense hankering to see Krishna. So here's Prabhupada's purport. In the previous two verses are included in the Padyavali. This is Padyavali by Rupa Goswami. Beautiful collection of poems and statements. Padyavali 13 and 14, an anthology compiled by Srila Rupa Goswami. So I recommend all the devotees to read this particular anthology by Rupa Goswami, the Padyavali. It's available on the internet. And then Prabhupada says, verse 69 refers to devotional service and faith, and verse 70 refers to devotional service rendered out of intense greed. The first devotional service rendered in accordance with the regulative principles, and the second refers to spontaneous loving service of the Lord without extraneous endeavor. So this is from the Ramananda Samvada, the discussion between Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda. I'll read a little bit more of this. Henceforth, the basic principle underlying the talks between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy will be spontaneous loving service to the Lord. The regulative principles, according to the injunctions of the Shastras, are necessary insofar as one's original dormant Krishna consciousness is not spontaneously awakened. Of course, that doesn't mean when your natural Krishna consciousness is spontaneously awakened that you give up the regulative principles. We have to really be clear about that. When one's natural Krishna consciousness is woken up by one's intense greed or lolyam, then one follows the regulative principles externally more strictly for several different reasons. One, because you like to do it. You don't like anything else that impedes your relationship with Krishna, number one. Number two, you want to set an example for others. I remember there was one devotee who just didn't get up early in the morning and everything like that. And then when he was questioned, he answered, "Isn't there a place for spontaneous devotional service in our Krishna consciousness movement?" Well, there is a place that's internal. You know, if one is on that platform, it's not that you just go on the internet like I'm going on now and say, "I'm on that platform. I'm spontaneous. I wake up in the morning when I feel like waking up, and I follow the regular principles that I want to follow." So, anyway, that's important. An example of spontaneous action is the flowing of rivers into the ocean. That's also mentioned by Lord Piladev about pure devotional service, transcendental devotional service in the third canon of the Bhagavatam. Nothing can stop this flow of water. Similarly, when one's dormant Krishna consciousness is awakened, it spontaneously flows to the lotus feet of Krishna without impediment. And that's what we're hearing about today in this verse. Whatever will be spoken henceforward by Ramananda Roy, based on spontaneous love, will be agreeable to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the Lord will ask him more and more about this subject. So, one of the symptoms, now I'm going to talk specifically about this particular verse in the Bhagavatam. So, one of the symptoms mentioned of this purvarag, or spontaneous love, or volume intense ecstasy, is that one doesn't really care about the opinion of others. And we see this in this particular pastime. Now, specifically, it's mentioned the women didn't take care when decorating themselves. Now, normally, what happens to women? Do they take care when decorating themselves? Why? Yeah, not only to the men, but they want to be attracted to, you know, they're concerned with it, with the way they look. It's not mentioned that the men put on the lower portion of their body, you know, or clothes like that, because it wouldn't really matter, because men are sometimes a little sloppy anyway, isn't it? I mean, they don't care so much. I mean, just like, look at me, the garland's hanging this way. You know, if I was a lady, I would just be like that. I'd be very concerned. You know, I would shave my hair more often. You know, well, not if I was a lady. Comb my hair, like probably. But if I had the mentality of a lady, you would shave up much more often. And just like Prabhupada said, one of the main businesses of ladies is what? Combing the hair. You know, in my Sikha's not even neat, probably not even centered. So for ladies, it's really important. That's why it's mentioned in this particular verse. It's extremely important, because what are the other ladies going to think about? What is everyone going to think about? What's my husband going to think about it? I mean, I don't know. I'm not a lady, but I'm just surmising this. So anyway, they don't really care at this point, because they're just like absorbed in meeting Krishna. They want to see Krishna. And so this is a symptom, of course, of its spiritual advancement, which is called abhaya, freedom of fear. And this particular symptom is not just manifested in ladies, and I'm not talking about always in relationship to how one looks or how one dresses, but it's manifested in terms of one's devotional service. I mean, that one becomes fearless. I mean, one example I can think of in this regard is the Brahmanas, the Yajnik Brahmanas' wives, isn't it? Now they, at a certain point, they were afraid of their husbands. Actually, they were afraid of going back. But they weren't afraid of their husbands leaving. Now, they did something in the Vedic system which would be considered completely unacceptable, ignoring their husbands. I mean, in America, well, Hare Krishna. Your husband could say, "Where's my food?" And say, "Get it yourself. Put it in the microwave. You know, nuke it," as they say. But in India, I mean, that's a heavy thing. You have to understand, the culture is different in India. I was realizing this yesterday. I was talking to someone who got me something, and I said, thank you. And he said, please don't say thank you. This makes me feel really bad. And of course, when I was young, I was trained up by my mommy to always say, what, magic words? Please and thank you. And so, you have to understand there's difference in cultures. So I had to apologize for saying thank you. He said, I never, my father doesn't say thank you when I do something for him. It'd just be weird. It's duty. So here in this particular case, the ladies just basically said to their husbands, hasta la vista. Didn't even say that. They just left. Of course, that was a reaction for the Brahmins ignoring the cowherd boys when they asked for food for Krishna. So they did that, that's such a heavy thing. And so without any fear, they went and served Krishna the food. But later on, they were fearful. It shows the culture right there. They were fearful. They didn't want to go back home. And Krishna said, don't worry, I'll take care of the husbands. Basically, he was indicating, I'm in their hearts. I'll make them cool off. Yeah, the women had conjugal feeling. It's another reason they wanted to stay. But one of the reasons they didn't want to go back was that they were afraid. And Krishna said, don't worry, your husbands will be all right with you. So they go back, and Krishna in the heart gives the husbands some realization. Not complete realization, because they didn't go to see Krishna. They were fearful. The husbands were fearful of who? Kamsa. So you see that they weren't on that same level of devotional service. And then we have, there's other examples too. Gopis leaving their husbands and children. Normally a lady's very attached to the children, very attached to the husband, or at least concerned with the husband getting angry. It just left them when Krishna played his flute. Just went to see Krishna. And of course, in the modern day world, we have the example of great acharyas, like His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who is called Abhaya Charanara Vinda, which means he who is fearless, having taken shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. So this quality, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who was known as Nishinga Guru, challenging people. So this is a quality of those who actually have purvarag. That they're actually fearless and in carrying out their service for Krishna. They're not worried about what people think about, other than the point, if they're preachers of Krishna consciousness, they're concerned that people respect the Krishna conscious movement, that people respect what they're doing, so they listen nicely. That's why Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas. One of the external reasons he took sannyas was that so the people would respect him and listen to him. So we're concerned about that. But as far as the opinion about that people may have about us, other than the preaching dynamic, we should just be fearless and enthusiastic and like loyal, hankering for pure devotion. And that comes from hearing. Shushushra Shataranasha Vasudevakata Ruchi Shanmahat Sevaya Viprapunya Tirtana Shevana. By hearing enough about Krishna and hearing about these great personalities, like the ladies we were hearing about today, like Srila Prabhupada, or like another example I could think of, like Madhavendra Puri, who was serving Gopal by carrying this sandalwood through the dangerous areas. You know, India can be quite dangerous, and even nowadays. I mean, one time I was in India, and I was going to take our bus of devotees somewhere, and they said, "Don't go there because the dacoits put logs on the road and block the bus, and then they attack everybody and steal from everybody. So just don't go there." So in those days, there were many dacoits, and Madhavendra Puri, without any fear, he was serving Gopal. So we should imbibe that same spirit by hearing about Krishna and hearing about Krishna's protection of his devotees. And we hear about the story about Prahlad Maharaj being protected by Lord Nrsingadev, like that. So, any other questions or any questions? You got 2.5 minutes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's Prabhupada. I mean, he was actually jumping from one train in the previous Soviet Union in the middle of the night when the KGB or the guards or whatever would come on the train to avoid being detected. He actually that's oh. So he would sometimes have to jump as the train was moving onto the tracks, and then jump on another train just to carry out his service. And Prabhupada was so pleased with him, Prabhupada embraced him like that. So, yes. Yeah. Yeah, Prabhupada had thankful. Indian. Yeah. Prabhupada was transcendental, and Prabhupada appreciated when we thanked him also. So Prabhupada was completely transcendental to all cultural dynamics, you know. But most of the time dealing with people from India, you got to be careful about it. So, any other questions? Mm-hmm. And cultivation of knowledge. Abhaya Sattva Samshuddhi Jnana Yoga Vyavastitahi, as Bhagavad Gita says, by understanding philosophically how Krishna is protecting his devotees, how Krishna is actually he's not a blade of grass, moves without the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna is in everyone's heart. I mean, just like these devotees who are going out and distributing books. One of the things I remember about distributing books is that we had to have the realization, and Drishtaprabhu will probably remember this, that Krishna is in everyone's heart. So you would actually pray to Krishna. Did you ever do this? I'm sure you did. Those who used to be book distributors or are book distributors, you pray to Krishna, please, you know, affect their hearts, you know, make them favorable so they'll take this book. I was listening to this one devotee, Mahotsava, how he distributes books, and he says, I never distributed a single book. It's interesting, isn't it? The humility. He said, I have never distributed one book. And he distributes 3,000 or 4,000 big books in a day. And he says, it's Krishna. So that's perfect consciousness. Okay, on that happy note, all glories to His divine grace, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, ki jai.
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Enam Kanvandam Aravindanalaya Taksham Varhamata
Jaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Samaniti Namane. Namaste, Saraswati Devi, Gurvani Pacha, Hey, Nivasesha, Junyamadi, Vasachagati, Satarane. Nivasesha, Junyamadi, Vasachagati, Satarane. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadada Shiva Sadi Gaura Vrindana Sri Krishna Advaita Gadada Shiva Sadi Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadada Shiva Sadi Gaura Vrinda. Advaita Gadada Shiva Sadi Gaura Vrinda. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadada Shiva Sadi Gaura Vrinda. Advaita Gadada Shiva Sadi Gaura. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hare Govinda Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hare Govinda Jaya Jaya. Jaya Radha Ganukinana Radha Ganukinana Dragade. Jaya Radha Ganukinana Radha Ganukinana Dragade. Jaya Radhe, 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 Radhe. Radhe, 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 Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Sri Radhe, Jai Om Vishnu Pad.
Namani namanatena kirtanina sadahari. Nadanam najanam nasundarim kavitam va jagadishakamae. Mama janmini janmini ishvare bhavatad bhakti rahoitaki tvai. Ainanda tanuja kinkaram patitamam vishame bhavam buddha. Kripayata vapada pankaja stita duli sadrashim vachintaya. Nayanam galata shudaraya varanam gadgadai rudaya gira. Pulakarnishitam vapukada tavanamagrahame bhavishati. Yugayatam namishena chakshusha pravashayatam. Shunayatam jagat sarvam govindam virahena me. Ashlishyavapadam ritam panastumam. Adarshanam marmahatakarotuva. Yatatatava vindatolam pato mat prananatastu saeva napara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benedictions to living beings, and thus you have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you've invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respects to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Oh, Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am not I've fallen in the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from the ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? Oh, Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he's always, the Lord, unconditionally. Shri Shastika Ki Jai.